Okay, I'm just making the final adjustments and we're gonna have a very nice sunrise over Tampa Bay. Let me just get my sort of hand teleprompter. I think that view is gonna work. I'm still learning how to do this. It's Adam, obviously. And we are in Safety Harbor on the pier. I assume that I'm going to be standing in the right place here. You'll be able to see me just fine. That's Tampa in the background, the city of Tampa. Tampa Bay is several miles wide in some places, so you should be able to get a view of really the whole sunrise. It's not like in eastern Florida where you often get you don't get much, and there are other people here now too, so I'm going to have to probably keep my voice down a little bit because I'm going to ruin the sunrise for other people if I talk too loudly here. So there's the view you're going to get. I'm going to pull my stuff now that other people are arriving to watch the sunrise because I don't want to disturb it for them, but that's okay, we roll with it. And I'll probably do this one by hand. I'm going to move out of the main end of the marina here. I'll just leave my stuff here. I imagine sunrise watchers tend to be pretty honest. But this is the end of the pier, but I'm going to go toward the middle of it so I can talk a little more freely. And let me move. Morning, how y'all doing today?
How are you?
Good. Great place to watch the sunrise, isn't it?
It is. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just going to leave my stuff here. I was going to talk into the camera. I thought I might have it by myself, but looks like I don't.
Gosh, no.
No, of course not. I'm fine leaving this stuff here though, right?
Regulars will come.
Okay, but I'm probably fine talking if I'm in the middle of the pier, so I'm going to go do that, leave my stuff there. Hopefully my stuff won't knock over. It's always an adventure. That's why I like doing what I do this way. It allows for a lot more spontaneity than might be the case if you know, I just were sitting in a studio somewhere acting like I'm a real news organization. As some do. Morning, Shia. Morning, Ron. Though I'm not going to get in the habit, I'm warning you all, of sitting there greeting everyone who comes into my live stream, or in some cases people do that on Foursquare. It's really annoying when people do that. I'm just figuring it out right now. Okay, we have not quite as good a view of Tampa. I am going to read you stuff that I think is worthwhile. I'm also going to turn so you can not see part of me, but you can actually see the sunrise. Sometimes you're going to get me, sometimes you're not. In the meantime, I'm going to focus on a view of the sunrise. That is Tampa in the background. Maybe I'll get it a little closer because the sun is 93 million miles from here. And I think that's a slightly better view there. So I'm on part of the pier. Most people are going to go to the end. So what I try to do here is focus on, you know, treat it like a news show. I don't pretend to be a news organization just because I have a screen and I'm in front of a computer. Doesn't mean like I'm a real news organization. Like, yes, CNN, if you want coverage of the Oroville Dam breaking, which is not happening right now, you go to CNN or Fox, even though we like to call them fake news, but they'll have a lot better coverage than I will. I would just probably read it off the Gateway Pundit or something. You know what I'm saying here. But, oh yeah, let me give you a nice view of everything going on. A 360. Like you got yesterday, like you sort of got at sunset yesterday when I was in Bonita Springs, Florida, at Little Hickory Island. Started doing a 360, then some people were very friendly there. But this is Safety Harbor, Florida. Very pretty area. On the drive up here, I saw some beautiful homes. This is Tampa Bay here. Always had a weird relationship with the name Tampa Bay because I was born in 1971, and you know, you get associated with certain things that occur at that age. And I was precocious, and so I even could follow baseball and football, the numbers. I was very good with numbers when I was 4 or 5 years old. So you know, that was the first year I even had was minimally aware of what was going on in the NFL season. Problem was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Seattle Seahawks were new that year. So all I saw was that they lost every single game, and they did. So they were 0-14, and I think they started off the next season 0-12. So I always just had a sort of it's somewhere between feeling, I always sort of felt sorry for, it's not a city, but the area of Tampa Bay, just because the Buccaneers were so bad that year. I always felt sorry for the expansion teams. It was true, I always had a soft place for the Seattle Mariners and Toronto Blue Jays, who came into Major League Baseball the next year. So you see a lot of people up here are coming to watch the sunrise, which is, what time is it now? Still 10 minutes away, I believe. So I got my tripod here. You got something to look at. You're not going to look at me. You will get to do that sometimes, more from the beach when there's a lot more space to work with, and I'm not going to get in other people's places. So let's go through, since around 6 p.m. Eastern time last night, what the headlines were on the Gateway Pundit. I'm again trying to do a news show, but I give you something more to look at than just me. And speaking of me, I'm trying to lose 15-20 pounds, so you'll have a little less of me to look at, but hopefully a better version of me to look at soon. So the headlines since last night are, this is from the Gateway Pundit, thegatewaypundit.com, which I'm not going to say is the best journalism in the world, but it's a comprehensive digest with just the right amount of stories. Obviously, they take things from other sources, and but they do a pretty good job, and they credit them. So I don't feel like they're stealing anything. I don't pretend that they're a news bureau. The Gateway Pundit is not going to have breaking coverage if there's something at the Oroville Dam, but they do have a correspondent in the White House now, which is a big deal. So let me just read you the headlines, from the last, I guess, 12-13 hours. New photos show damage to Oroville Dam as massive storm pounds California, and it has photos and video in that. This is what Trump was talking about. Muslim migrants grope girls, slap mothers with children. There's a video for that. MSNBC kicks GOP guest off show after he points out Elizabeth Warren is not Native American. Loud Arab call to prayer in Times Square as Muslims protest Trump, shout Allahu Akbar. Christian florist taking fight to the U.S. Supreme Court after being sued by a gay couple. 8 more minutes till sunset, by the way. And then the most recent thing that Jim Hoft over at the Gateway Pundit posted was that New York Governor Andrew Cuomo gives speech praising Muslims and Jews, excludes Christians. And there's a video for that. Oh yeah, and then there's one more. TGP's White House correspondent Lucian Wintrich smashes MSM in NBC interview. By the way, Jim, if you're watching out in St. Louis, you missed the N in correspondent. Let me just go through these stories a little more deeply now. The damage to Oroville Dam, no, it's not happening, and if you were, I'd say leave this immediately. If it were a major flood, even though there are some storms expected in Northern California, go leave this, watch CNN, Fox, someone who is maybe considered fake news, but has reporters actually there, unlike me, unlike the Gateway Pundit. But this is a new report from Fox News yesterday. It indicated that if the Oroville Dam fails, residents who live in harm's way will most likely be advised in time, which adds to the mounting stress as new storms pound California. These are the communities downstream. They might not, it seems, receive adequate warning or time for evacuations. We don't know. But Reuters is reporting that large parts of Northern California are being placed on a flood advisory as new storms pound Northern California. Just give you another view of me, show you them. Hi, it's a real person here. Some comments here. They get great comments over at the Gateway Pundit. California has wrongly chosen harboring illegal criminal aliens over repairing infrastructure failures. Along those same lines, if California had not been spending upwards of $25 billion on taking care of illegal aliens instead of a dam, they knew they had problems back 12 years ago. The dam would not be an issue right now. Then, jokingly, why doesn't the California governor call out his illegal La Raza buddies to riot in front of the dam, wave Mexican flags, and look for white people to assault? That'll fix it. Maybe if they didn't use all their deficit spending on being a sanctuary state, they could have invested a bit in fixing the dam. The problems were known for years. And I like this one. Maybe they should just tear it down. After all, it's just a wall, and they tell us that walls don't work. Another one, just think of it as open borders for water crossing. Maybe that water is just seeking a better life elsewhere. No need to criminalize it. It's not like water can be illegal. Going on to the story from Sweden, got to watch that short video. I put ironically, maybe, what they're doing. Like, to teenage girls. They're sticking their hands between their legs as if that's okay. You know, but I said ironically, jokingly, when I posted this on Facebook, maybe they're just very sensitive guys, the Muslims who are doing this in Sweden, and just trying to make a statement, a political statement about what Donald Trump said jokingly over a decade ago. But let me give you a little more context on this story, which is called "This is What Trump Was Talking About: Muslim Migrants Grope Girls, Slap Mothers with Children." This is in Sweden. So on Saturday at Trump's Melbourne rally, that was in front of thousands of supporters, like they always are, he referenced the violence in Sweden due to the tremendous influx of refugees. And of course, the mainstream media started talking about, well, there's no big terrorist attack, but it's a total situation of intimidation there. But the media immediately attacked President Trump for suggesting there was a refugee problem in Sweden. They claimed he was making it all up. And again, I am reading a lot of these passages from the Gateway Pundit. You should generally assume that nothing I'm telling you is original. I have permission from Jim Hoft to do this, by the way, at the Gateway Pundit. Now, a blogger, or I guess a Twitter, this is from a Twitter feed by an Amy Meck, whom I don't know. It says, Sweden Muslim refugee children in quotation marks, grope girls between their legs, then slap them in the face when they protest. Hashtag Sweden incident, / I am a Muslim too. And there's a picture on Twitter, you got to see this, Amy Meck, M-E-K. And then there's a Muslim savage tries to cut a Swedish woman in line. I urinate on people like you, and effing whore. So here are the comments along the lines of what you might expect, but they're well written. These are the best of them. Where are the stupid hoes with their cat, she didn't write cat, hats? Where's Judd or Streep the numbskull? Another comment, the end is near if we allow this in America. Another says, I've seen interviews with Swedes who say everything is great. They love their new Muslim friends. Delusion is the hallmark of liberals. Another one, bye-bye Sweden, the Swedes who deny their immigration mess. For example, those interviewed in the street in the last portion of this video are total fools. They comfort themselves that they are not racists, but they are victims of their own idiocy, if not of Muslim violence yet. And the sun really is getting ready to come right, you can't see it close enough here, right over downtown Tampa, it looks like there. You can see the people on the pier, or at the end of the pier. Another comment here, I visited Sweden several times, and I can tell you that the transformation the country has seen in the last 10 years should be a wake-up call to any country that respects itself and wants to preserve its culture and identity. Sweden will become a Muslim country by 2050. By the way, I would guess it's going to be a lot sooner than 33 years from now. Stockholm is increasingly becoming dominated by a migrant population. The city of Malmo, once a beautiful, quiet seaside city, is now resembling an African hellhole where Islam represents 90% of some suburbs like Rosengård. And I just want to add, Sweden is very vocal, at least the politicians there. I don't know about the ordinary Swedish people. It's probably like here, a big disconnect between the two. They're very vocal about criticizing Israel for not always living up to lofty standards. So as a Jew who's very pro-Israel, I sometimes say to hell with them. They're getting what they deserve, though of course Sweden was neutral, though very much helping Nazi Germany during World War II, and Raoul Wallenberg was from Sweden. So it's not like the same feelings I have toward what's going on in Germany, which is pretty similar. Fish was just down there, I missed it. A lot of wildlife here on Tampa Bay. Okay, the sun is definitely scheduled to rise at 7:03. That means, but because of the tall buildings in Tampa, the distance it might not be for another 2 or 3 minutes rather than 1. Okay, another story. Am I ruining your sunrise by talking about people like Elizabeth Warren, Fauxcahontas? But that's the shtick on this show. I give you a sunrise, but the point is I'm also giving you the information out there and my interpretation of it, but I'm just giving you something better to look at also, while you're getting the same information you might as if I were sitting in front of a desk and a computer somewhere. So going on, MSNBC, you can turn the volume down if hearing about Fauxcahontas or sitting bullshit is going to ruin the sunrise that I'm trying to provide for you. But the story is called MSNBC Kicks GOP Guest Off Show After He Points Out Elizabeth Warren is Not Native American, again from the Gateway Pundit. On Saturday, MSNBC's Joy Reid, I guess they haven't fired all African Americans over at MSNBC and NBC. They're dealing with, no, it's CNN dealing with the lawsuit from African American employees. MSNBC's Joy Reid repeatedly attempted to race bait former Republican Congressman J.D. Hayworth on her show AM Joy. Newsbusters reported that the claims that Reid threw at Hayworth ranged from false to misleading. However, it wasn't until Hayworth exposed Reid's liberal hypocrisy by bringing up the fact that Elizabeth Warren is not Native American that Reid flipped out and kicked the GOP guest off the show. Again, the words of Gateway Pundit. Oh, I see a little bit of the sun through some tall buildings in downtown Tampa. Here's a transcript from Reid's outburst. I don't know their voices well enough to do them, and I'm not like a perfect voice impersonator. Wait a minute, okay, JD, can I just tell you something? We're going to end here, but sir, you've talked about straw men, but twice now you've answered questions with non sequiturs that have some sort of an ethnic base to them. Now you've gone after Elizabeth Warren's Native American heritage, which is a complete non sequitur. Hayworth then quickly hit back at the notion that Warren has Native American heritage by saying she has none. Continuation from Reid's outburst. I think we're done with this segment because you literally answered a non sequitur. That's incredibly offensive. I'm going to let Rosie Perez talk about the thank you for being here. No, you know what? What an odd exchange. Odd non sequiturs. I want to talk to you for a second. Rosie Perez, thank you. Wow. You know this expression. Wow. Just wow. You know, that they always, the fake astonishment. Oh, speaking of wow, just wow. Look at that sunrise. You can see it now too. Beautiful. Over Tampa Bay. There you go. Look at that. Look at that. There we go. 93 million miles from here. How about that iPod? There it is. All right, back to the mundane. The comments to that story. It's just a short time until liberals start burning books. They are desperate, almost psychotic. Someone else writes, what a complete idiot Joy Reid is. She is just a loudmouth hack. I'm black, but I scratch my head, wondering why black Democrats would support illegal immigration. Democrats make everything about race. This is why I'm an independent. For the uber left, divide and conquer is the larger plan. But in between, you have overt pandering and the intentional pitting the various groups against one another. And without that strife, they lose the hypnotic control they hold over their flock. Just look at what O and his ilk are up to, running a deep state effort behind the scenes. The goal is to foment trouble, even paying people to riot to stoke the fires, both literally and figuratively. Their way to victory is by causing disarray. Like it or not, the truth is that they just use race as a wedge issue, as a means to an end. And you know what? I think that's enough news, politics, enlightenment, as some would say at other places. I don't have that attitude. I want to focus on the sunrises. I'm not getting a great view here on my You are. Hopefully it's not too bright. I have a lot to learn about photography. Oh, I know what I need to do. I need to adjust the settings so it's bright. I was saving battery power, but this thing needs someone who's intelligent, who has some ambition, who has some ideas, and who has some follow-throughs, and who preferably can hold this thing a little steadier than I am right now. But I'm walking with it now. I'm giving you a view of Tampa Bay, giving you 360. See some birds. I don't know what kind of birds they are. Birds vary in various parts of Florida. Maybe we'll even talk to people out there. And I just try to give you something to look at that's nice while giving my interpretation of the news. I'm not a news bureau. I just go on my computer, get this information, and I have a lot of experience following this, and I know whose opinions are worth listening to and whose are not. There's so much information out there, you could waste a lot of time figuring it out. I'm gonna put myself in the picture for a sec. Hey, can we get the sun in me, or does it mess up the focus? I think, see, when the camera focuses on me, you don't get such a good shot, but you get some good shots of the sky. But enough about me. Let's get back to that sunrise. Beautiful, isn't it? Anyone here a regular? Know anything about Tampa Bay? I'm doing a live stream. I just would love to learn a little bit more about the area, the nature here.
Oh, Pat's the expert.
Oh, don't be shy. Don't be shy.
Have you seen any manatees?
No, there are manatees in here?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
I think they moved too fast for me to be able to track them. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Wait, who's this guy? That's not a manatee, but he's cute. Hey, do you want some publicity? What's your name?
This is Abby.
Hey, Abby.
Yeah.
Abby likes the sunrise. Oh, here
Loves
she
the
goes.
sunrise.
Abby likes attention.
Start our day, right, guys?
Oh, he likes my.
Everybody have a good one. We'll see you.
See y'all
We're
later.
off walking.
There are manatees.
Maybe.
Can anyone do a manatee mating call here? Okay. Here, manatee. Wow, manatees. That's one. You don't get those in the Schuylkill River in Pennsylvania. Look at that sunrise. I'm not sure anyone's even been watching this. But, you know, maybe I'll continue with the news. They got this. I'm not going to disturb the people at this view. I had it all set up before. Okay, I'm going to do the news, see myself a little bit. Can we do this? Yeah, we can do this. Move this over. Still getting the hang, guys. Still getting the hang. How to do a sunrise broadcast. There we go. Sun over my shoulder. So maybe I should sit here. Maybe I should angle it better. I think I mess up the sunrise picture when I'm there. That's the problem. So I'm gonna sit by here. Hold this way. No. Yeah, that's the way to do it. Sorry, enough of me. Okay. I'm figuring this all out. I am committed to giving you a sunrise and a sunset report on a daily basis. At least until I realize I can't make a living doing this, but the goal is to be able to make a living doing this. And this is the sunrise over Tampa Bay. What are those, oil derricks? Who knew? Just beautiful here. It's beautiful. Okay, another story. Loud Arab call to prayer in Times Square as Muslims protest Trump. Shout Allahu Akbar. I'm trying to keep my voice down here a little bit, so I'm going to come closer to the phone. Muslims and Muslim sympathizers protested Donald Trump today in New York's Times Square. This is a story from last night. Chelsea Clinton. Oh, wait. There's a pelican. Look at that. Pelican's hungry. I wonder if he caught anything. See, if you go to any of the other news outlets, you're not going to have a story about Muslims protesting in Times Square interrupted by a pelican having breakfast. But back to the story. Muslims and Muslim sympathizers protested Donald Trump today, that being yesterday in New York's Times Square. Chelsea Clinton boasted about, I call her Chelsea Mezvinsky, or no, Chelsea Hubble Mezvinsky. Chelsea Hubble Mezvinsky boasted about being there with her daughter, Charlotte. Hamas darling Linda Sarsour, who you may remember from being the leader, the public face of that women's march. Linda Sarsour was also there spreading hysteria and propaganda about President Donald Trump. In Sarsour's speech, she reminded people about the executive order that Democratic President FDR passed, which put Japanese Americans in internment camps, implying that Muslims and minorities could possibly suffer the same fate under a Trump presidency. There was also a loud Arab call to prayer during this protest in NYC. In an Islamic call to prayer, Adhan, the Muslim, is shouting Allahu Akbar, which translates to God is greater or God is greatest. They mean that their God is greater than your God and or the government. This is a blatant act of Islamic supremacy. As you look at the sun in its early stages of the day over Tampa Bay from Safety Harbor, Florida. Comments to that story at the Gateway Pundit. It is phenomenal. Just as Arabs bear a hatred so great they send their children to die for the cause, so too liberals would rather commit suicide than see their peers succeed. Another comment, throughout the Muslim world, women are treated as second-class citizens who are inferior to men in terms of intelligence, morals, and faith. This arrangement derives from the Quran itself, which states unambiguously, Men have authority over women because God has made the one superior to the other. That's from Quran 4:34. Fools and lemmings. You're welcome to it, Chelsea. I truly cannot understand the stupidity of those people that are supporting these Muslims. Do they not read history? Do they not see current world events? These Muslims have hated us for centuries. They hate us now and will hate us forever. Grow up and defend our culture and quit being sheep. This is only tangentially related, but I agree with it, even though I don't know why it's a comment to this story. The Senate needs to censure John McCain for pretending to be the Secretary of State. He has no business going to Germany, giving speeches and interviews. Another story at the Gateway Pundit, since yesterday's sunset, Christian florist taking fight to U.S. Supreme Court after being sued by gay couple. Which is interesting, these stories, because the editor of the Gateway Pundit, Jim Hoft, who is the main man behind it, is gay, and I believe Lucian Wintridge, oh, he definitely must be, their new White House correspondent, he's gay too. He was the head of Twinks for Trump. And a subheadline on this story is "Florist taking fight for religious liberty to the Supreme Court." On Sunday, WorldNet Daily reported that lawyers for the Christian florist Baronel Stutzman, who was sued by a gay couple for refusing to provide flowers for their wedding, are vowing to take the fight for religious liberty to the U.S. Supreme Court. This announcement comes after a ruling on Thursday where the Washington State Supreme Court ruled unanimously that she violated anti-discrimination laws. From WorldNet Daily, the Alliance Defending Freedom, which is defending Stutzman, begs to differ. They're wrong, said Alliance Defending Freedom Senior Counsel Christian Wagoner, who argued Stutzman's case before the Washington State Supreme Court. We're deeply disappointed with today's court decision, Wagoner told WND and Radio America. The First Amendment protects Baronel's rights as a small business owner and a creative professional. She has loved and respected everyone who has walked into her store. She served this gentleman Ingersoll for nearly 10 years and simply declined an event. One ceremony that was a religious ceremony because of her religious convictions. Comments. I'm 100% with this lady. If I own a business, I should be able to fire, hire, refuse to serve, refuse to sell, make my own wages, include and exclude whomever I choose. Another comment. The KKK wants a carpenter to build them a cross to burn. Question, can the carpenter decline their offer and get sued? I wonder what the same court would say. The arguments are primarily through interpretations of federal civil rights laws, not through interpretations of equality guarantees in the Constitution. Beautiful here, isn't it? Safety Harbor, Florida, on Tampa Bay. Continuing with the comments there, anti-discrimination laws. People discriminate all the time. Not everyone is accepted into specific colleges, make the sport team they were hoping for, apply for a job they were denied. Can anyone join a biker club, golf club, etc.? So should I sue someone because I was denied my right based on their standards? And these are just a sample of the great comments you can find by looking at these stories at thegatewaypundit.com. Media is changing. There's so much information out there. The monopoly is well over, and I'm just trying to give you something to look at while reading you what's the most important information. The fact of the matter is, I just can't provide something visual to go with every one of these things, and if you're reading in your car, if you're listening in your car, most of it's about listening too. Oh, I have this place for myself. Another pelican. Scared off the woman who was doing photography. All right, let me set this up so I can be in the shot now. Bear with me a second here. We'll finish up with that. It's such a nice view. The problem is the sun, the camera can only do so much focusing. So there's me. Get the sun on my shoulder. Okay, there you go. You're not going to see Tampa Bay in this, or the city of Tampa, but let me continue with another story because I have this whole end of pier here in Safety Harbor to myself now. Okay, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo gives speech praising Muslims and Jews, excludes Christians. Is that an okay angle? Yeah. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo gave a speech a couple weeks back to show his solidarity with Muslims after Trump's travel ban. On Sunday, Muslims and Muslim sympathizers also protested in Times Square. Governor Cuomo posted the video of his speech to his Twitter account using the hashtag #IamAMuslimToo. To show support for the protesters in his speech celebrating diversity, he praised Jews and Muslims while excluding Christians. Andrew Cuomo, I can't do his voice. I wouldn't want to be able to do his voice. I hope I don't sound anything like him, because he really has a horse's ass way about him. I mean, he's weird looking too, by the way. If you've ever looked at him, he really is imperious. And blowhard is the word I think that best describes him. And that as a New Yorker, I am a Muslim. And as a New Yorker, I am Jewish. And as a New Yorker, I am a refugee. And as a New Yorker, I am black. And as a New Yorker, I am gay. And as a New Yorker, I am poor. And as a New Yorker, I am homeless. And as a New Yorker, I am a child who needs an education. And as a New Yorker, I am a family living in poverty. He left out transsexuals, and that we are all connected and that we are all one. And that, of course, had some comments. All right, he forgot to mention he was a moron, too. Someone else added. And then he heads back to his guarded, gated home so that none of those people can get anywhere near him. New York is one hot mess, and Cuomo is making matters even worse. In place of conquering the problems, he is only using his time and taxpayer money to interject his hate for our president. Another adds, would love to have seen him praising Muslims in the days after 9/11. How did we get here? Pretending to be something you're not is called either lying, acting, or crazy. Cuomo has been so good for New York, the taxpayers are leaving in droves, to which someone adds, like father, like son, same exact thing happened when his father was governor. And then the only article since sunset last night, or at least as of an hour ago, which I haven't gotten to yet, is something of a self-promoting thing by the Gately Pundit, but they've had a good couple weeks being admitted to the White House press corps, and they're allowed. TGP's White House correspondent Lucian Wintrich smashes MSM in NBC interview. MSM is obviously mainstream media. In a rare display of honesty by MSM, NBS's Brooke Sopelsa had a very enlightening interview with TGP's Lucian Wintrich on becoming a White House correspondent. In the interview, Lucian discusses the First Amendment Defense Act and the bias of the MSM. Here's what he said. Throughout the entire election cycle, the media was absolutely the opposition party. They were pulling out these libelous articles, these absurd articles, meanwhile applauding Hillary and ignoring any negative news that could potentially impact her winning. It was so transparent. They even lost the guise of being unbiased, he said. They're not helping our country when they set out as a primary mission to undermine the legitimacy of the president. With the barrage of leftist media right now, you absolutely do need a conservative counterbalance and counterweight to that. The liberal media has largely been unchecked, and so it's been able to grow crazier and crazier and more blatantly biased. Sopelsa then tried to grill Wintrich on LGBTQ rights, but he fired back, discussing his faith in the free market rather than the government as being the best check and balance system. With Betsy DeVos and with Sessions, I haven't seen them propose any anti-gay policies. I haven't seen them do anything within the administration to hamper LGBTQ rights, so I think these are completely unfounded worries. I didn't bother with comments for that one. But there's one thing I want to add here. There's great writers out there. There's so much garbage, and there's so much mediocrity, and there's so much stuff that's only pretty good, and there's stuff that's good out there, but if you have limited time, you really should go to the best. And what I'm going to be trying to do with all this is direct you to some of the best people. Yesterday it was someone who's not really a public author, he's a lawyer, but wrote some brilliant stuff. This is yesterday at sunset about the upcoming Supreme Court fight, if there is one. They may be saving it for the next round, especially if it replaces Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But I'm just trying to direct you to some of the best writers out there. And, news is changing, all that information is changing so much. Go to the best people who don't pretend that they don't have an opinion, rather than thinly veiled bias at so-called news areas. But there's a guy named Daniel Greenfield. I know him. I haven't seen him in the last few years, but I met up with him, and I used to do some interviews with him all the time when I was getting started with all this YouTube stuff. But he has an article that came out over the weekend called "The Elites Are Revolting." He goes by Sultan Kanish. He writes for The Point at David Horowitz's frontpagemag.com. But this is a story, and I'm going to read you a couple paragraphs and hook you, and hopefully you'll go to the whole thing, which is called Daniel Greenfield's "The Elites Are Revolting." Published February 17th, 2017, so I guess that was, what's that? That would have been Friday morning. And here's how he starts off. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox. It will be brought to you by BMW. The German luxury automaker is a key advertiser at GQ. And GQ is the headquarters of the resistance. That's a vlog by Keith Olbermann, who returned from his exile as an ESPN Elba, at an ESPN Elba to denounce Trump. Ah, clever references. Elba is where Napoleon was exiled to, so that's an ESPN version of where Napoleon was exiled to. Though, interestingly, that was the second to last place. It wasn't secure enough, so Napoleon actually went to, where was it, St. Helens? Then he could never escape from that one. Anyhow, but back to what Daniel Greenfield, a.k.a. Sultan Knish, writes. I am Keith Olbermann. Keith Olbermann barks to the peasants and workers of GQ who are taking a break from reading an article on a $100 cologne that smells like nothing. This is the resistance. By the way, if I practice, I probably could do a Keith Olbermann. When the underground isn't at GQ, the most radical dress socks to wear right now, it's at Vanity Fair, where Graydon Carter denounces Trump, Donald Trump, a pillar of ignorance and certitude, right above a photo of himself taken by Annie Leibovitz, smiling smugly from his skyscraper office. Maybe the resistance is Reed Hastings, the billionaire CEO of Netflix, who used his wealth catering to the tastes of urban elites to lobby to raise the taxes of the middle class. Hastings whined that President Trump's moves to protect Americans were so un-American it pains us all. Who are this us? It might be Warren Buffett, Google's Eric Schmidt, or Facebook's Sheryl Sandberg, with whom Hastings had joined to support Hillary Clinton. Or it might be the CEOs of Lyft, Airbnb, and Twitter, to name a few, who have joined the anti-Trump resistance of wealthy elites. All right, you get the point. I don't want to give you too much of it. Read Daniel Greenfield, what's it called? The Revolting. Just Google it. I don't need to give you a link. You know how to use Google by now. And I'm going to just, hey, I've given you enough information that you're not going to get elsewhere, that hopefully this was worthwhile. I gave you a really pretty view of the sunrise. The sun's out now, and I'm going to close with a 360 view of Tampa Bay from here where I am at the pier in Safety Harbor. So let me turn this around, get the camera. Actually, it's just an iPhone 6, but my point is technology is making so much possible. That's bye from me. Let's get you one more view of Tampa Bay and Safety Harbor. If you look really hard, maybe the city of Tampa in the background. I'll walk around the pier, let you see it all from different angles. Isn't this fun? Give you something visual, give you something that might be incongruous, which is hopefully worth listening to. I don't just take the first things that come on my mind. I don't just take the first things I see. I actually edit this stuff. I use Gateway Pundit as a basis for what stories are relevant. Would have liked to bring you a manatee. Supposedly there are some of those around here, but no. So that's the view down the pier. That's a view of some people coming in here, who I'm not going to disturb because I'm wrapping this up in about 10 seconds. So there you go. The sun's right in Tampa, but what a great view of it, isn't it? And that's it. Thanks for watching. I'm going to come back to you in a few hours with a midday report.